Alright, so here we are recording the second part of the globe animation that we're doing in computer animation. And next thing we want to do after we have our globe looking like it's three-dimensional and rotating by going through that mask is we're going to add some stars in the background. So we'll drag this layer down to the bottom, and you'll see you don't want to make sure it's under the mask still. You want this layer to be on its own. And for making some stars, what I'm going to really do is just add a bunch of gradient circles, really small ones. So I'll select my oval tool or circle tool and change my type of fill to a radial fill of a gradient, and make sure that it's white on the right and black on the left. And so that will make some small kind of like stars or planets off in the distance. I'm noticing now that these have blue outlines around them, which I do not want. So I'm going to turn the outline off and go back and add some of these kind of star spheres off in the distance, kind of staggering them at diagonal angles, making a couple bigger, but for the most part just really small spheres that from afar appear like stars. Add that one back and add another one right here, and that looks pretty sufficient. Fills up the sky pretty good. Maybe I'll add one more there, one more here, and that looks good now. Okay, so star layer is done. We'll also go in, and the second part of this assignment is really to add something that goes on what's called a motion guide and goes around your planet and then back off the stage. So sometimes what we've done with motion guides, or motion tweens rather, is we've drawn something and then made it move from one point to another. And here I have a small character that I've drawn in Flash of a little kitty on a rocket. And so if I double click on this graphic image, you'll see that there's two parts. One layer I drew the cat, and on the layer underneath it I drew the rocket. So inside of that graphic there are two layers, and you can draw one that has one, you can draw it that has two. Some other ideas might be planets or satellites, anything you might, or anything could be something completely random and funny, something you might not expect to find flying through space. So this is my image that I'm going to use. It's on its own layer. I'm going to also on that layer create a new one right next to this layer, the new layer button. We are going to click on this button right here that says add motion guide, and so what that's going to do is create a guide layer for the layer of my object that's going around the Earth. So I'm going to go ahead and name this cat so that I make sure I remember which layer is which. And on this layer here, this keyframe, first keyframe on what's called the guide layer, I'm going to draw with my pencil tool. I'm going to draw a line that I'm going to actually make this cat fly along. So I'm going to start with the pencil tool right here on kind of this side, go around the globe to the left, and then come back off the stage on the right. So that's a pretty good line. I could, if I wanted to adjust it, take my move tool and move it over my line so that you get that little curve next to the arrow, and you could actually move this line a little bit. It's making some funny angles, but that actually there, that works. Makes that curve a little bit smoother. Let's see, maybe I'll just draw this side out just a tiny bit more. Alright. So that's always a nice feature of the move tool, is that you can actually take things that you've drawn and shift them a little bit. I'm going to smooth out these couple jagged parts in the line there too. Okay, so that should work. And this line can be as complicated as you want. This does not have to be just one curve. You could go in a spiral. You could have anything kind of motion going on in this layer to make your object move. So I'm going to just do this guy going along this line like this, and so I'm going to make them a little smaller to start. I think that seems like a good size. And what I'm going to do is, whenever you select a graphic you've saved, it has a center point right here. this dot. And that, what I want to do is I want to line that up or snap that right to the beginning of the line. See, I want to get close. It snaps it right on it, so that means that it's locked to that position and it will move along the motion guide. I go to the 40th frame, or the end frame of this animation. I'll press F6 to create a new keyframe, and then there I'm going to move the cat down to the end of the motion guide and make sure that it's snapped onto that line, and then create a motion tween. So I'll create a motion between those 2 points, and let's see, he goes right along that line, right? Now, something that I can do is, you can see he kind of goes along it and then goes backwards. Something that we can do to try and change that is if I click on the first frame of the cat, or of your object that goes around the globe, first keyframe of that layer, not the guide layer, the layer that your graphic is on. If we go down to our properties bar, you should see a checkbox down here that says Orient Two Paths. And if we click that checkbox, what that should do is make it so that the cat actually rotates and then spins, okay, and does a full flip. Wasn't exactly what I anticipated, but still pretty funny nonetheless. So the cat actually follows the line a little bit longer and then spins off the stage, which isn't quite what I want, but still pretty funny. So let's watch this as a preview. And so he spins around and off the stage and then comes back continuously in a loop. So remember, you can add anything you want spinning around your globe. Be creative and have fun.